Yeah, and they've got the whole saying. It was like, I think it's the 10,000 hour or 50,000 hour. I can't remember the exact number, but there was somebody that put out there that in order to get good at something, like really good at something, you have to put in something like 50,000 hours worth of proper practice, not just practice, but proper practice. You have to practice it properly,
Yeah, I
or
think
it
it was
doesn't help you
2000.
at all.
I think it was 2000. The other reason I'm gonna, I mean, normally I wouldn't, I don't think the actual number matters, but the reason I
Yeah.
remember it as 2000 is because 2000 is actually about how many hours you spend full time at a job in 1 year. So if you want to get to some
Okay.
to the point where you are good at something, I mean, that's just if you calculate 40-hour work week, 52 weeks, that comes out to almost exactly 2,000 hours. I think it's 2,047 hours or something like that. And that's what a 40-hour work week for a year is. So that's
Yeah, I
roughly,
couldn't remember.
yeah,
I couldn't remember the exact number for it. And of
yeah.
course, you can become good enough at a lot of things, and you hear this all the time. People's like, "Oh, I wish I could play piano." It's like, well, you need to be a little bit more specific with your wish there. You wish you could play piano without having to actually put any time, effort, energy into actually learning, right? I mean, that's true. There are so many things I wish I could do.
Yeah.
There's so many things I wish I could do. I mean, it's like, well, I wish I could play guitar. Well, I actually started learning to play guitar, and I'm like, okay. I didn't put enough in to be like good. I'm certainly no Clapton, but I can strum along and do a kind of accompaniment guitar, which was good enough for me. We figure that our lives are full. Everybody's lives are full. We all have the same amount of time in our lives. Everybody's lives are full. We fill it with things, and in order, if you want something new in your life. Here we go with the whole self-help guru books. If you want something new in your life, you have to figure out what you're going to give up for it, because our lives are full, and we fill it with, some people fill it with just sitting around staring at a television. Some people fill it with doing lots of other things. Some people fill it with browsing Facebook. We fill our lives with something. Something's going on. Some of us fill it with half our day with sleep, because we want to sleep half the day. But we fill our lives with something. So if you want to learn something new, or you want something different in the life that you have now, you have to give something up and then change what you're doing. Or it's never going to, I mean, your life won't change until you start changing what you're actually doing. So if you want something new in your life, you have to give something else up to achieve it. And if you want something to change in your life, you need to change what you're doing.
Life is like a quarter. Life is like a quarter. You can spend it anywhere you want, but you can only spend it once.
And so when it comes to children and expectations, I'm like, I want children to be passionate about things. I want children to explore everything that they can. I don't want to beat down that, even though it can be maddeningly frustrating to have a conversation with an 8-year-old about how things work in the world. It can be maddeningly frustrating because you think I'm horrible about going down rabbit holes and getting distracted about things, which we have from local government, which is what started this conversation. But children are far worse. But I want them to pursue that curiosity. And I see in the public school systems, the majority of the time, children come out of grade school, start going into junior high, and into early high school, and they have lost that curiosity about the world. Learning is a chore. I hate this. I don't want to do this. I'm going through the numbers. Some people are driven to get perfectly good grades for whatever reasons. Some of them just do it for the challenge of doing it. Some of them have, behind the scenes, have incredibly strict parents that are doing emotionally manipulative and possibly cruel things to drive their children to get those kinds of grades. I mean, there's lots of different things, but one of the universal things it's almost so universal, ubiquitous, I should say, that when you get a child that comes out of high school or makes it through high school that still has that gleam of curiosity, that joy of just learning something new, figuring something out, is rare. We see those people. We see the Neil deGrasse Tysons. We see the Bill Nyes, that still have that passion for learning. They still have that joy and wonder at the world around them. Most people don't. It's so much so that we remember those people when we see them.
Yeah. Well, and there's something to be said too. There's a couple of And there's also always going to be a median, and then people outside those margins, wherever the sort of Overton window goes. I did want to show. So this is, I collect. I don't mean to, but I collect decks of cards for precisely the reason that I told you. So this is a medieval deck that it's a medieval deck of cards that my daughter gave me, because she knows I don't mean to collect decks of cards. It's just like I see one, I was like, oh, because like I said,
That's
I used to
really cool.
practice when I was a camp counselor. I would I taught archery. I'm actually a certified archery instructor, so I'm certified to set up archery ranges up to the Olympic level even, and as a coach, instructor, yada yada yada. But I taught archery at summer camps for a very long time, like 10 years. And but at a lot of these camps, they didn't have any real contingency for what it would do when it rains. And so you would need to the good ones I liked had a contingency for the entire camp, so that they'd be able to modify things so that the people at the individual stations wouldn't have to worry about it at the individual activities. But a number of the camps didn't, and there was one I worked at for a while where they were just sort of like, okay, you're still responsible for the students even when it's raining, and even if they can't do the activity, figure something out. Like, well, where do I go? What do I do? Well, figure it out. And we happened to be lucky in the archery. We had a covering so that we could all be under there. But the question is, how do you occupy the kids? So for me, sleight of hand, magic tricks, so on and so forth. And I'd always be losing my cards. So I'd have a deck of cards, but I could never find it. And while we were talking, I was like looking for it. It was actually right there. But because of that, that means I always sit there and I always, if I see a deck of cards for sale somewhere, I say, I haven't been able to find my cards in a while. I should buy. So I end up buying cards every time we're on vacation, every time. And my wife just hates this. So I end up with 30 decks of cards. And I used to even keep a deck there. This one should probably go over there because this is a really nice deck. But it's a medieval, and it's just because of I haven't done it in a while, but it's also the reason why most people, when we're playing poker, won't let me hold a deck.
Everybody's heard it now. We need to watch and pay attention to Nick, because he's displaying the very early signs of a hoarder. That's usually how hoarders get started.
It is. Well, it's funny. Well, it's funny too, because my brain is just so disorganized when it comes to so many things. And in some things, it's organized unbelievably sharp, but when it comes to other things, it's the most disorganized thing you've ever seen, and that's why I lose things so easily. So I lose the
Try
decks.
living in my brain for a while.
No, thank you.
Oh my God.
I appreciate the offer, but no. So, anyways, I love this deck, and this was a gift. I'm actually, since it's important enough, it's going to go into. I don't know if I ever told you the story of this thing. You may have heard it because you watched the show, so you've heard the story. You know how, oh God, although telling it without crying may be difficult, especially today. But I'm gonna put that right there. Did I tell you about how I got this and what this is?
You're gonna make me try and look while I'm driving 70 miles per hour.
It's a cabinet. It's been behind me on every fucking episode of.
I think I've heard you go through. I heard you go through a couple of times, and you would point out a few of the things in your office there, and then you gave like stories. So I probably have heard it, but I cannot remember the particulars of it off the top of my head, because I probably wasn't paying super close attention. Like, oh, that's an interesting anecdote, and then a month later you've completely forgotten about it. It's not that I didn't think it was important. It was just.
It's just an anecdote. I mean, hey, if people remembered it, I'd only be able to tell it once. No, well, so I met my wife, and she ended up, she's got a PhD in biochemistry, but she grew up in New Mexico. Most people who live in New Mexico, they call that the land of entrapment. Most people who grow up in New Mexico don't get out. I mean, there's nothing to do there. It's boredom. Her high school had a nursery because so many people were having sex and getting pregnant, and they just never leave. And they end up getting stuck with these. Yep.
Been there. That's my least favorite state in the country is New Mexico.
Yeah. Oh, she despised it. She graduated high school and started trying to get a PhD because she really wanted to make something of herself and get out. And she got accepted to Hunter College in New York, but she had nowhere to stay or go. She had nothing she could do. So there was a cousin that she had basically two cousins she had never spoken with. It was a Baptist, American Baptist minister who was married he was gay. He was married to another guy, an American Baptist. I guess that's okay, but he was an American Baptist minister living in New York, in Brooklyn. And she called him up, said, "We've never met, or when we did, I was 3 years old, but I need a place to stay in New York so I can get my PhD." And he said, "You can stay here." And it was an apartment that's only a little bigger than this office. And it was the three of them together. And she ended up getting her undergraduate actually at Hunter, and then going to Clark, which is where she got her PhD and where we met. But he was a remarkable man, and I really liked the guy a lot. And we decided when we got married that he would perform the ceremony. And he was probably the single most important.
Awesome.
Yeah, and he was probably the single most important influence in her life. And without him, we certainly would never have met, because she wouldn't have gone. She wouldn't have been able to get her degree and go to where we met. So he changed everything for her with this compassion for. I mean, how many people would let a cousin that they hadn't met since the cousin was 5 just move in with them? And I really enjoyed. He was a theist, but we got along famously, and I loved the guy. And I still am I'm a big fan of his brother, who we he's a great guy. We talk all the time. I love this guy. But at any rate,
I would like to
yeah.
help remind me. I want to go back to your comment. He's a theist, but we still got along okay. I want to go. I want to go back.
Okay, well, keep in mind
that
was as unnuanced as your a woman will never beat a guy. So just let's keep in mind. I didn't do the nuance caveat there, but
no.
Okay,
it's not what you think.
Okay.
But
all right, we'll go back. I'll remember it. So what ended up happening was now he had this bookcase, and I do like I do have an affinity for knickknacks, as you can tell, and for certain kinds of nice things. I don't like a nice car. I've always had like either a Jeep or something that's driving a car that's 10 years old. I don't necessarily like flash or fancy. It may not look that way, but everything here has meaning. Absolutely all of it. And so he shared that, and he liked art, and he liked and he had this bookcase, and this bookcase was made in the colonial days. There's a brass fixture on the bottom that says who made it and when. I forget the exact date. The glass is over 200 years old, and that's all the original glass, all of it. So the glass is older than I am, my father, my grandfather, which makes it also a bit of a responsibility. I get a little nervous when the girls are in here, but anyways, oh dear Lord, he ended up getting cancer, and for Thanksgiving, which makes him the second family member of importance to die on Thanksgiving, on or about Thanksgiving. But at any rate, we were living in Michigan, and he came to visit, and we were aware that it might be his last visit. Everyone thought he had probably a year or two left if he was lucky, but he got sick while he was in our house, and we managed to get him to the hospital, but he never left. And his partner had decided beforehand that they would sell or get rid of everything in the apartment and then give it to people who wanted it, because he felt that was the best. That's what he would want, is for other people to have it. And there was nothing there that I really thought I wanted. And so I was talking to his partner, or his husband, and we were talking. He said, yeah, I've gotten rid of almost all of it. He goes, all of it has been going to different people except for the bookcase. He goes, I can't get rid of that. I can't give that out to anyone. I was just like, why not? He goes, oh, that was a specific. He goes, that's the only item that had a very specific person that was going to. So I can't ship that out. So who's it going to? It's you. And I was just like, ooh, wow. Goes, yeah, that's the only item in the entire place that he said, nope, it's going to one person. I never asked for it. I didn't, we never even, and I was just like, but that's also somebody who knew me, because, I'm a writer, and I was just like, wow. And so 200-year-old glass, 200-year-old bookcase, and there it sits. That's the story.
That's a nice story too. And I like that. I like it when people surround themselves with things that have meaning to them, not necessarily other people, but instead of just surrounding yourself with valuable things, surrounding yourselves with things that matter, things that mean something to you, even if they don't mean anything to anybody else. Maybe I'm just overly sentimental about things like that. I mean, there's definitely things that I have that are just there because they're a functional thing. But then I've got certain things that I have kept. I have my father's saddle, for example, even though, my dad didn't buy it till we moved to Wyoming, but it was my dad's saddle. So I have my dad's saddle. And even though it doesn't fit me, it doesn't fit pretty much any horse you put it on. It's an old saddle. Well, it's a really old saddle. So, it's not particularly great for actually riding anymore, but it was my dad's, and he passed away, back in 98, very beginning of 98. So, I have, some things. It's like at one point I've been able to literally live out of a pickup truck, but some things like that saddle I have always kept. But going back to
I want to say one more thing. I remember what it is. It's the friend, theist, he's theist, but we were friends anyway. And everything in there, absolutely everything in there has some kind of meaning. I got my badge, my VIP access badge to a Barack Obama event, which I helped organize because I was second district coordinator. Stuff from the mock trial team, stuff from Rome when I was in Rome, Greece. A letter, my very first letter of when my agent accepted my novel. I've got what else is in there? Last bottle of whiskey I ever drank. My ACLU card, because I am in fact I don't know if you're gonna like this. I am in fact a card carrying member of the ACLU. That's the card. So it's an actual ACLU card. And
hey, I thought the ACLU had done some amazing things throughout history, the history of the organization. I question where it's heading today.
I do too. So I will say I've had some concerns, and I think you and I have had this issue too where we've discussed it. I think you have a lot of respect for more liberal organizations. I have a lot of respect for more conservative organizations. The problem is extremism on either side. That's the thing I object to most.